I'm here today with Barbara Salopek, who is CEO of Vinco Innovation AS and adjunct lecturer at BI Norwegian Business School. She's an internationally recognised innovation expert. And over her career, she's helped organisations secure over 100 million Norwegian kroner in funding across multiple industries. And she's the author of Future Fit Innovation, empowering individuals, teams, and organisations for sustainable growth. So first of all, welcome, Barbara. It's lovely to have you here.
Thank you, Alison. It's a pleasure to be here, and especially after I have been listening some part of a great number of the episodes as well.
There are quite a few, aren't there? Yes, I'm not going to apologise for that, but it's a bit of a backlist, yeah. So let's talk about innovation. It's such a sort of an uncritical buzzword, isn't it? For going, we need to be more innovative. Let's remind ourselves why it matters, and also let's have a chat about where the responsibility for it lies.
Yes, it's innovation is really a buzzword that everyone likes to use, and as our colleague co-author Tom Pullen says in his book as well, it's like a sprinkles that you put on every cake. So everyone who uses innovation is also thinks that it adds value to everything what they do. So which delays the value of innovation itself, but innovation is extremely important, as you asked. For several reasons, and it enables you to stay relevant on the market. It enables you in the two main ways. One, if you're innovating within your internal processes, making them more efficient, so you are saving money, right? Or it enables you to stay relevant to the market, that you are launching products and services that are relevant for your customers, because also customer demands, they change over time, and what was maybe in and needed a decade ago doesn't have to be today, and technology changes, the circumstances and context changes, so you have to keep up with that. And innovation means coming up with new ideas, new products and services that fit to the market and that actually are valuable to customers or people buying them.
We'll come on to responsibility in a second, but it's really interesting that you talk about internal innovation and external, because I think most people immediately go to the kind of external, new products, blah, blah, blah. But actually that process, that kind of continual innovation of process. And what I noticed you say there was that saves money. And I think that's a really interesting point, because so often when leaders think about innovation, they just sort of see a money pit opening up in front of them, don't they? With no secure revenue coming from it. So that's an interesting take on it, is that if you're not innovating, you're missing opportunities to save as well as future potential revenue.
Yes, and also, like, when we talk about innovation, everyone talks about the breakthrough innovation, the big ones, and everyone is also forgetting the small incremental innovation when you improve products by year or making it much more easier to use. So I think all the levels of innovation are important. We cannot forget one part, and especially we cannot forget this internal part when you are getting more efficient. And how you are getting more efficient and this connects with the creativity that I'm writing about the book. When you have employees in your company, they have all been working there for a while, and they have some certain deep knowledge about their expertise. And I believe that creativity means creating new things, and we have different types of creativity. One is artistic, to paint, to be a musician. We have scientific creativity, which is having a deep knowledge about something. But actually, I think that being creative means having a deep knowledge about anything what you do, because this helps you then to connect those things into new things. And exactly, employees at the working place, if they have been working there for a while, they have deep knowledge about their expertise in this field. And then if they are able to get out of this functional fixedness that I also talk about in the book, then they can combine it in new ways, and they are creative. And then we go back to their responsibilities. So I think that everyone's responsibility is to be creative and innovative then in the end. But always people look at the creativity on innovation as its responsibility either of the department or one person or a few persons. And it's important to have someone who is focused on that. But I think that every employee should have responsibility for it. And it's not easy to roll this down to every single employee, especially, for example, if you have 500 or 1,000 employees. It makes quite a challenge. So that makes much more reasonable to have, this is the department, they do it everything, and we all forget about it. But then you are missing all the all the deep knowledge other people have, all the important things they can contribute. And it's very difficult to put all efforts or responsibility only on few persons, and then that's those few persons have difficulties to sell it throughout the whole company. But then I say that the innovation muscle has to be built top down and bottom up, and top down means that the top management has to understand what actually innovation embraces, and it's not a sprint, and it's not 2 days workshop, it's a long-term run, like when you're writing a book, you think you're finished, but you have to run. You have to continue running after you run that first part of the marathon. You have to continue. So it's the same with innovation. It has to take at least, I would say, 5 to 10 years until you start kind of getting the fruits of your efforts. And that's very abstract, and that's very intangible, and we all live from today until tomorrow, and we all prefer the dollar today or pound today compared to in 10 years time. And we all, like, especially US companies, they are very quarterly results. So then I think the responsibility has to be on the top management to understand these complexities so they can roll it down, and then every employee has the responsibility to build it up. So that's how I see it. And then also I have in the book the three level framework, because at the all top management, they're also individuals, they're also the group, and individuals, they make groups, and groups make organizations. And in each those levels, there is individuals who shape the group, who shape the dynamics. And we know that psychological safety is shaped by the team leader. And why I have the group, not the team, because the organizations have both formal and informal groups. And teams are only formal, and we want to embrace also informal group because they also have an impact. So,
and I remember that really struck me looking at your manuscript when we first started talking, that sense that you've got that innovation is distributed throughout, not just throughout the organization, but throughout those kind of the dimensions of the organization. So you can have an innovative organization, you can have an innovative individual, but that point about the innovation that comes at group level, I thought was absolutely fascinating. And that's really where so much of the work gets done, isn't it?
yeah. And especially if you have those innovation processes, because you have teams that are going to brainstorm, that they are going to bring it further, they are going to evaluate, and they are going to refine, they are going to kind of make the prototypes. And in all these segments, you work in
Yeah.
groups, in the teams, and then they ask for feedback through peers in formal and informal settings as well. So that then again, we have groups and we have team individuals, and they all make organizations. So you like everyone who is implementing innovation has to be aware of those, that you have to go into the depth. It doesn't help staying on the surface.
And you mentioned psychological safety just a little while ago, and let's talk a little bit more about not just psychological safety, but that whole culture that has to be developed within an organization. You know, what is the role of that, and how can leaders create that kind of culture?
That's a very beautiful question, because that was one of my motivation for the book as well. Because everyone was talking about, let's have innovation processes in place, collecting ideas, evaluating them. But then if you have the culture that doesn't support these innovation processes, then this will not work. And what does this mean, the culture? Culture is behaviors, norms, and values, how we actually act, what we do every day without thinking. And for innovation, we have to have certain behaviors. We have to be curious, we have to explore, we have to learn, we have to ask, question the status quo, and experiment. What if we do? And if when you are testing an idea, then you experiment, and then you also ask for feedback. If people don't feel safe, no, I think we should try this, or maybe we should try this, or if they are afraid of speaking up, or if they are afraid of challenging the status quo, then you don't have this the source of innovation processes that you need to have in place. So that's why culture is extremely important. And then again, the top leadership has to understand this depth again of the processes, and then all the creativity happens as well. Coming up with ideas. You need to have psychological safety, so people speak up. And how do they speak up? They come up with ideas. It's one way of speaking up. Commenting on the ideas, giving feedback on ideas. This is all speaking up. And if you don't have this in a place, they will stay silent. And of course, everyone, when they join the team, you have this U curve. In the beginning, there is psychological safety, but when you get to know the team, then you learn whether it's allowed or not, and then it disappears if it's not allowed. So and I think without all those ingredients, you cannot have the successful innovation processes that you should have for the long-term successful innovation. And I think all of those things are so abstract and long-term that makes it innovation so difficult actually for the companies to implement it.
And so many leaders don't realize that that sort of culture, that psychological safety, that ability for people to speak up and feel that their idea is going to be welcomed, that doesn't come about by accident, because naturally people will wait for the most senior person in the room to speak, right?
Yes. And so it's important in that case that as a senior person, a more senior person, you don't speak, you let others speak. You don't come, because once you say your opinion, that everyone, it's called anchoring also with the prices when you're negotiating, right? So then it's anchored and everyone is on that. And that's also functional fixedness. You just go for the known, established. So the best things that then the senior goes out of the room and leaves the people to do themselves. And then at the end, they can together discuss the ideas without knowing who said what. But also, like, psychological safety is not very easy, or like it's not one dimensional. There are also cultural aspects of your country that can also influence it. For example, in Norway, it's very common to be vulnerable, to say, oh, I did wrong, or oh no, I don't know this issue. But in some other countries, that's not acceptable. And if you're coming from this culture where, for example, Nordic countries, where it's normal to say, I don't know the answer to that, in the country where that not acceptable, then you will not build psychological safety. People will not have trust in you. While in the Nordics, you will maybe build it. So there are lots of context that you have to be aware. And as I said, it's not one dimensional, just this is how we do it and it's finished.
Yeah. So particularly for big organizations, for global organizations, you've got that kind of cultural intelligence that needs to come in with it as well. Yeah. So fascinating. And you also spontaneously made that sort of link between innovation and writing, that sort of, you finish the marathon, but oh no, you've got another marathon to run. Tell me a little bit about the writing process. How was it for you?
Well, first, when I come to the, I will write the book. I was very scared, of course, how to do it. And then, as I'm a very practical person, and then I was like, okay, I took one book that was a similar thickness as mine, and I calculated how many words does it have, and I divided by 365 days, and I come up, if I write 360 words per day, I can finish the book in a year.
I didn't know that. That's hilarious.
But these 360 words, that's one paragraph.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big
and
paragraph.
Then realizing that it's a little bit more. It's like this much, I think, half a page.
360 words. That's more than a page of a normal size book, honestly. It's about 250 words a page or so on most books.
But okay, it's a page and a half, and it's not a lot.
It's not a huge amount.
I mean, it's not 10 pages, so you can. So I was like, yeah, I can do that.
It's probably less than a page of A4, which is what you're thinking about at that stage, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, A4 I'm thinking about, yes. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. That, like, 360, it's not 5,000, it's not whole chapter. And I was like, okay, that could be manageable. And then I also made a structure. I was very structured about it. Okay, these are my chapters, which were based on my TEDx talk. And then each chapter, I then structured each one. And I was like, okay, introduction, everyone can write introduction, right? And and the conclusion, when you have everything, you can also write easily conclusions. I was like, those two things, I can do that. But then the core was difficult. And then I was reading lots of, I was reading 60 to 100 scientific papers on the topics. And then I was structuring what was the common theme for them. And I was structuring what they talked about. And I was like picking up what I want to, what I want to put in the chapter, and connected with my experience and some real life things. Then I was surprised that at the end it wasn't as difficult and scary as I thought in the beginning. So and it was much more easier than doing some projects, to be absolutely honest.
The great thing about a book is it stays written, doesn't it?
Yeah. And it doesn't argue with you. It doesn't contradict you. It's there. You write it and everything is on the paper. They don't say, no, I want to be written here.
It's hilarious. So did you actually manage to stick to your 360 words a day plan? Oh,
No,
good. I'm
no,
very
I
clear.
haven't. But I said, okay, 1 month I will read the articles. I read the articles and make the structure, what they're talking about, what's important, what's interesting, and then another month I will write. And I was kind of doing these things, and I was working in the weekends because weekends, all holidays. Yeah, I was all like, because I was working and teaching parallel to this, so it took almost 3 years to do everything. But like it gave me confidence when I had a structure.
Yes,
So
the structure is
yes, I'm a
everything,
very
isn't it?
structured person.
And I think it's interesting you sort of initially had that simplistic 360 words a day, that's what writing a book looks like. And actually, as you get into it, you realize that writing looks like all sorts of different things. It looks like reading papers and making notes and having
Mm.
conversations with people. And
Mm.
sometimes it looks like removing words.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's so
absolutely.
interesting. And what are you noticing now that the book has been published? How do you relate to it now?
Oh yeah. That's a strange feeling. I mean, it's there, and I mean, it. The one of the surprise thing is that how much work you have to do after the book
Yeah.
is done. It's not only, the book is not going to sell by itself, so you have to. But like you're always focusing, let me write the book, and then once you write the book, okay, then I want this. Like the you're always increasing the desires, the wishes that you want to achieve with the book. So that's very contagious, and you have to be careful. Okay, some things are good as they are, and you have to be very careful using your energy on what you are using it and how you are using it. So in order to stay in a kind of sane sane mode.
What kind of response have you had from the people that you work with?
Oh, yeah, that's the most beautiful part when people send you the messages and they have read and they say, "Oh, your book is so much better than this course that I attended here, and that's really known institution." And I was like, "Okay, really? Why?" And then they say, "Yeah, it's wonderful when you get really nice feedback and when people share that it resonates with them, and that's really most rewarding part, I would say, when you have the people that book resonates and fits with their thoughts, thinking."
It's a nice reminder for anybody who's right at the start of this that although it feels like a very lonely process, what you're working towards is actually that connection. And it's that thing that will be of service to people and will make their lives better and will share ideas and so on.
Yes.
And I think that's a really helpful thing to hold on to as you write, isn't it?
Yes, and also if anyone is writing with you, Alison, you have a wonderful community and people are helping each other and we are supporting, and it's really some very wonderful people in your community that I'm very grateful that I have get the chance to be part of.
Yeah, and you are such a great part of that community, so thank you. It's brilliant. But yes, I think that mitigates the loneliness of not just the writing, but the
Yes,
promotion as
yes,
well. The whole kind of
yes,
exposure, the
yes.
vulnerableness of putting the book out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing.
And sharing the
Yeah,
learnings, everyone has something to share, and it helps to speed up the learning process, which is important nowadays when we don't have
yeah,
time.
absolutely. Brilliant. I'm going to ask you, as I always ask my guests, as you know, for your one best tip. So somebody is listening to this, they're at the start of the journey. What would you say to them?
Well, I would say to them what I'm trying to say now: find the structure of your
Mm.
book, because once you have the structure, what actually the book is about, how, it will be much more easier to write than just I want to write a book on this. Like brainstorm the ideas, what is important for you to be in that book. And once you have this, of course it will change over the time, but more or less it will be your guiding. So that makes it much more easier for me, because if I'm thinking to write book number 2, I have only 2 chapters now in my head, so I'm missing 6. And
That's hilarious. I didn't know you were into well, a quarter of the way through book 2.
it's just in my head. But I have idea for a fiction book, and I have quite a good structure in my head, and I don't know if I should do that or
It's
not.
addictive, isn't it? And it's like when you were saying that
Yes,
about, reading the journals and making the notes, and I often find guests on the podcast, and they have a sort of wistful, faraway look in their eyes, like, "Oh, I remember those days when I was deep in writing my book." And at the time, they probably hated it, or they thought they hated it. But you look
yes,
back now
yes,
and you
yes.
think, "Oh, that was a really beautiful
Yeah.
time of my life when I was creating this thing that's in the world
Yes.
now." Yeah, it's very easy to get wistful and nostalgic about it when you're not actually doing it. So,
Mm.
love that. And I always ask as well if there's a book that you would like to recommend us. So a book that perhaps you found useful yourself in its own, so for its content, or a book that you think is particularly well written, or anything really. What would you recommend us?
I would say two things here. First one, I would encourage everyone to buy like smaller authors, like not very known, like the community authors, because those big ones, everyone is going to buy them. Like I think it's important to support like smaller voices as well. But here I will mention someone the book I read was in Norwegian, Machines That Think by Inga Strumke. It's about AI. And since we are in AI thing and everyone is talking about AI, so the book is about artificial intelligence. And it very nicely explains how the AI has been built and what are the threats, or like what are the things you should be careful about. For example, the threat about AI is that when you don't know on which variables has been built, you don't know if you can trust the output that is giving you. And then the less we know about the variables, the more unsecure we can be what actually it's providing. So that's one big challenge that everyone has to, and she writes in the book that European Union has to be aware of it. That's one thing. And the second thing is like how the AI builds answers that it gives you. For example, the language models. They use the chess as an example, like how which next move it should give you when you are playing chess. And then the AI is trying to think what is the most probable next move you are going to make. Or for example, in the text, what the text that you provided, for example, email, this is the email I get, I want you to provide me the answer. So the AI reads it and it's trying to think should it be the most weight in the text, and then it provides you the answer, which is very interesting because sometimes you get answers that you don't like, right, that you think it's hallucinating, but when you know this background, then you know you just put the weight on something else that you didn't put the weight
because
on.
it doesn't have
So
the
then you have to
context, it doesn't have the breadth of context that a human reader would have. Fascinating.
So I love that book.
I don't know the book, so brilliant. And thank you. I think it's the first time I've had a Norwegian author recommended, so I love that.
I think she's Swedish, or Norwegian, but I read it in Norwegian, but it's translated to English.
Yes, of course.
Machine That Thinks.
Brilliant. Thank you for that recommendation. And Barbara, if people want to find out more about you, more about the work that you do, more about Future Fit Innovation, where should they go?
Well, they can Future Fit. They can always find on Amazon or any other retailer throughout the world. Thanks to Alison, and they can find me on LinkedIn, Barbara Salopek, or barbarasalopek.com website, and then they will get all other information there.
Amazing. Well, I'll put those links up on the show notes at extraordinarybusinessbooks.com. Thanks for your time today. It's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Alison. It's always a pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity of being here.